Hello, my name's Lauren McGrath, and this is my 8-minute marketing simulation video. We're just going to start out with number one, discuss about the link between marketing strategy formulation and effective execution. So we all know that formulating a great marketing plan is a large part of that marketing strategy. The way this links with the effective execution is if you don't have that effective execution of that marketing strategy or marketing plan, it's pointless. It can easily be thrown out and you don't go by it. This specific situation or simulation, I guess, made me realize the importance of each aspect of starting and maintaining that great marketing plan. So looking at here, it's important to keep a flexible marketing plan if your customer isn't satisfied. So segment D at one time was not satisfied. They wanted us to shave costs. In the past, like other runs that I did, they were dissatisfied, so you had to give them more discounts. So starting with this one, I started with more discounts. And if your customer isn't satisfied, you can focus on that satisfaction with the discounts or the sales force, seeing how much sales goes to each one of those segments. So here, this is preparing for my future strategies by making me realize that if you don't stick to that marketing plan, executing it correctly, being all over the place and very inconsistent, it'll never work. You have to execute that plan correctly and be flexible with it. So number two, discuss how using segment and customer needs analysis helps you to make product marketing and product design decisions. So in this simulation, we had 5 segments of large customers, segment A, B, C, and D. Then we had the small segment customers. So the large customer segment A, it's important for us to look at those needs of that segment. So we know that they wanted the high power to size ratio, but we also need an analysis of them. We know that they are not price sensitive. We know that they are loyal to us and that other ratio. So segment B, we know that they are not loyal to us at all. So for us, segment B, we did not pay much attention to. Since we knew that they were loyal to our competitor, they're not price sensitive. This group was really difficult because you don't want to make any of your guests, any of the segments, unhappy. They were already with that competitor, and we didn't want to spend all of our time and effort on someone that was with the competitor. So we gave them less discounts, which they weren't price sensitive anyway, so that's okay. But we didn't focus as much on customer service as they would probably like. So large customer segment C, this is a new market. They're not with us. They're not with the competitor. They're not price sensitive. And the quality of both the power to size ratio and the thermal resistance was really important to them. So the sales was really important in this category since we're trying to win them over from the competitor. So even looking here, with that segment, we knew that they wanted both thermal resistance, power to size. So for us, we focused, we focused more on the thermal resistance. As you can see here, we knew the competitor was good at power to size, but we wanted to stay consistent with power to size, but also do great in thermal resistance. So for our sales force, for C, we wanted to make sure that it was excellent because we knew that they were also looking at the competitor, and you don't want them to go to the competitor, obviously, so focusing on that sales force and keeping both of them in relative terms with the power to size and thermal resistance. So segment D, they're very price sensitive. It's hard to keep them happy when you're raising the prices. They want the low prices, but they also want the acceptable quality. They want all of the discounts. They do need attention from the sales team, but they don't need all the time in the world either. They're very, very concerned on the price. So for us, we went ahead and made sure that our sales reps were good with segment D, but we also didn't put all of our percentage into segment D. So it was really important for them to have the discounts. So segment D, as you can see on here with the prices, is a little bit lower than each of the other segments because they had the most discounts. So the last segment is the small customers, the third-party distributors. They want that acceptable quality at an acceptable price. And this was the hardest one for me to decide if they needed the most discounts or what they were looking for, because we were already ahead of our competitor in this small customers segment. So we wanted to keep it consistent with them. So looking at each of these, it was very important. They all affected the marketing and product design decisions each round. So going on, number 3, discuss how understanding segmentation, targeting, and positioning of your company help to create balance in your decisions for each area of the firm. In class, we talked about the data analysis, looking at the environmental and the marketing trends, which are shifts, which definitely shift when the customers are being affected. So we talked about competitive and demand analysis, which answers this question. We know our potentials and opportunities in the marketplace, and this is done by segmentation, targeting, and the positioning. So when we talked about property needs and what gaps had to be filled to cutting costs, and looking where we needed to increase our revenues. Another important aspect that relates to this subject, also what we talked about in class, is the internal analysis. This is the segmenting and the targeting portions of this question. And for segmenting a company, you have to look at, well, personally, we looked at the large customer group sales. So that was very important to us. And we also looked at the small group sales. As you can see, we primarily focused on the large group customers because they brought in most of the revenues. Figuring out who you are targeting is very crucial. We knew we wanted to target the large group segment A. We did this by giving them more service and keeping their discounts at a reasonable level. So for us, that was really important to look at. So we knew, here we are, that segment A here is giving us a lot of revenue. So that is really important for us to keep up with their discounts, to keep up with their sales reps. So we put a lot of our sales force reps into segment A, and that really showed that it was really excellent, and we got the revenues out of it as well. We had to find the balance with the segmenting the customers, targeting each of them differently, and positioning the company where the opportunity analysis that we talked about in class, that's where that came in. So we had to look at each of these and see the opportunities within them, identifying where in the marketplace do these opportunities lie, and staying consistent with that position that we already adopted. So that was really important. Number 4, discuss how creating pricing strategy, low, same price, high prices, affects consumers' response, and how these pricing strategies affect revenues and profitability. So when it came to pricing, we were very, very ambitious. We started at a lower price. We ended up being really high by the end of it. But it was really hard, like I said earlier, to keep the large customer segment D, happy. So as you can see here, they were asking for prices to be shaved off. So in the customer satisfaction, they were always asking for prices to be, for us to cut costs with them. And, or they were cutting costs, so they wanted us to shave our prices. So from past rounds, whenever I didn't attain the goal, I learned that the high prices for those segments, such as D, weren't always the best. They really put a dent into the net income of our company. So putting a little more discounts to segment D each time we raised the price, it really helped us to keep them satisfied. The quality was increasing, like I said, so we didn't want to keep the prices same at the lower cost. For them, we just gave them more discounts, but it was still keeping them happy and back to us. And I learned from a previous round that if you didn't keep them happy with shaving the cost, they would go to the competitor and you lost a lot of revenue. So let's see. Number 5, discuss how managing channel conflict and maintaining consistency across channels helps you perform internally with the profits and externally with the customer satisfaction purchases. So when there's a problem in the segment and they aren't happy for a reason, it's super important to solve this conflict. So like I said earlier, segment D was not happy with the discounts we were giving them. So it's really important to us to make sure that they didn't go to that competitor and up their discounts every once in a while. Whenever we were upping our price, up the discounts as well. Maintaining that consistency, though, is really important. They were expecting that increase of the discounts, so we had to give them the increase of the discounts. If you aren't keeping that consistent price, you'll lose their customer satisfaction and in turn lose the business and in turn affect the bottom line. So it was important for us to not change anything too drastically. Otherwise, the purchase level of the customers will also change drastically and go down. So we talked about in class differential pricing. We need to see what each segment wants, what their wants and needs are, and how we are maintaining that relationship with them. Pricing was super important to like segment D, so it was really important those channels were consistent. So keeping them at that same price, but then giving them the discounts whenever we upped the price. So moving on to number 6, discuss how using marketing and financial metrics, market and segment share, quarterly revenue, unit sales, profit margin, and spending on the features, customer satisfaction, sales report, helped us analyze the performance. So it's important to see where the money came in, not necessarily ignoring where some of the business came in, but it was important for us to look at the large customers, acquiring the new customers, and maintaining those large customers. For us, we spent a lot of time maintaining and getting those new large customers. Maintaining was the most important because once you lose that relationship, it's so hard to get that back. It was important to look at each of the tabs here. So the net prices, it was important to look at, see where our competitors are, see where we are. And as you can see, we were very consistent with our prices, keeping them around the same level. You can obviously see that segment D was a little bit lower than all the other ones. And so that was the prices, customer purchases. That's also important. So you want to see where your revenues are coming in. We are seeing that our large customers are bringing in most of the revenues, and the small customers are not bringing in as much. And like I said earlier, segment A was super important, segment B being lower, segment C going up a little bit, which was good because we wanted them to come to us and not to the competitor. And segment D kind of going up and down, but we really stayed consistent with our sales and made sure with those discounts that they were happy. So the sales section, we can see that our large customer sales went up, and that's what we wanted, and that's where the money came in. The small customer sales, even at the beginning, wasn't really even making $20,000, so that is really shows a lot that the small customers weren't giving as much revenues as large customers, so spending more time on the large customers was really important. Looking at the income statement, that was also really important. The profit margin here was very, very important. You can see from the revenues from our large customers, our small customers, how much we made there, but then the cost of goods sold. So our gross margin coming down, being good overall, the cumulative profit with that net income coming to $8 million. So moving on to market research, this was really important because we with our competitors, we wanted to focus on one. We wanted to make sure that one of them was the best. So we knew that our customers or our competitors were better at the thermal resistance. So yes, we did keep the thermal resistance quite consistent, but we focused on the power to size ratio a lot because that was really important to us. To keep those customers, especially segment A, this was very important to them. So keeping that power to size ratio performance up was really important. So let's see, customer satisfaction. Obviously, this is super important. Keeping your customers happy. Obviously, segment A was very important. Segment B, they were dissatisfied. We knew that. We knew that they weren't bringing in the most of our revenues. So we didn't really spend as much time on segment B. Segment C, very satisfied, awesome. Segment D, we knew we needed to keep those discounts. So they're just satisfied. Even though they were dissatisfied earlier in the run, they became satisfied throughout the end. So that's awesome. The small customers are very satisfied. So that is awesome to us that the small customers are still there for us, even though we're focusing on the large customer area. So our Salesforce report, obviously we wanted to spend a lot of time on segment A. Like I said earlier, segment B, not being as important to us, but we still wanted at least a little, or not segment B is over here. So segment B, we still wanted a little bit, but we didn't want to put too much emphasis on them since we knew that they were going to the competitors. Segment C, we obviously wanted to keep theirs up pretty high since they were going in between us and the competitor. In segment D, with those discounts, and a lot of Salesforce as well, kind of going after segment C. So they still were really important to us, but obviously not as important as segment A. So moving on to number 7, discuss how appreciating the relationships among customer satisfaction, customer buying patterns, customer loyalty, and firm profitability help you to set up direction of your strategies in the long term. So we discussed in class that everything stems from the customer. The customer is going to determine what your business is. Their value is the perception. So appreciating these relationships is very, very important. Looking at their buying patterns, when the customer thinks it is a good time to buy or when they will stop buying when prices get too high. Customer loyalty here is huge. So you can see here, customer A was very loyal, so we wanted to keep them happy. And they're a huge segment to us, so putting a lot of Salesforce with them and making their experience as good as possible was really crucial. The majority of the profitability comes from these large segments, like I said. So large segments in general, it comes, that is where it all came from. So the majority of that profitability comes from them. So like I was talking about earlier, maintaining the consistency with them is very, very important, and it definitely will affect you in the long term if you don't maintain that consistency with them. Okay, so number 8, the very last one, discuss your appreciation for the design of this simulation. Do you have any areas where they can improve? I really enjoyed this simulation. I personally thought they were kind of off on the customer satisfaction. So personally, that is really, really important to me. Keeping the customers happy is very important. But as I learned in the simulation, if I did something twice, they would be happy one time, unhappy the next time, and consistency with that was just all over the place. So it would have been cool for them to focus more on their customer satisfaction, and since I put a lot of stress on that, that was important to me. But I really did enjoy the design, showing us not only the sales part of things, but also the prices and the income statement. That was really important to see all of our work from the past classes and in life in general, seeing that come into effect here as well. So that is all for the marketing simulation, and that was the cumulative profit of the 8